What's your favorite podcast? Or should I say, who is your favorite? Whether you're a Joe Rogan fan or limit your listening to true crime, most people have a favorite. Did you know that podcasts have been around for about 20 years? However, Apple didn't add them to iTunes until 2005. 10 years later, I did a radio show that was really a podcast, though no one really knew what that was back then. Our show was about real estate and mortgages. And our most popular segment was called I Knew a Guy. And today, I thought it'd be fun to share those on this YouTube channel. And the show was the original All the Right Moves. Have a listen and tell us what you think below in the comments. Then like and subscribe so we can keep the info coming to you.
So, do you have a I Know a Guy?
I do. My I Knew a Guy story is about a guy who worked at a clothing store. I almost said furniture store, but clothing store. And he didn't make a lot of money, but he really wanted to buy a house. I was able to do some creative financing and found him a really nice house, something he really loved, something he actually never thought he'd be able to get into. And we were working along the way. Everything was going along fine. Got him to sign his loan papers at the very end. We were getting ready to fund the loan, which most of you know is one of the last steps before the house is yours. And at this point, the lender will usually call the employer of the borrower to find out if they still have a job.
Right.
And it seems kind of silly when you think about it because, well, of course they have a job. They're buying a house. Well, in this particular case, and the guy I knew, he changed jobs the day before we were funding the loan. So when the lender called, they said, oh, he doesn't work here anymore. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. He didn't tell me. So I called him on the phone and I said, hey, probably said his name too, but I don't want to put it on the air. And I said, what happened? We just called your work and they said you don't work there anymore. He said, well, I don't. And I said, well, what are you doing? You're trying to buy a house. We got to verify employment. And he said, well, that's none of your business.
Nice.
I said, what do you mean none of my business? He said, well, who I work for isn't any of your concern. And I said, well, when I verified your employment, got your pay stubs, your tax returns, W-2s, we verified that you had the job. We verified how much money you made. And they just want to make sure that's still current as they're trying to give you a couple $100,000 to buy this house. And he said, well, that's none of your business. So I finally convinced him that it was my business, and without a proper job, he was not going to get this house. And so after him yelling at me and telling me again that it was none of my business, he told me, well, I have a better job, so you shouldn't really care. And I said, well, okay, better job, because if he went from a job in a clothing store to a job making a little more money, typically that's a pretty easy fix. It may delay the transaction, but it should be a pretty easy fix. Problem was, in his case, he went from being salaried employee to commission. And when you are a commissioned employee, you need to show a track record of having this income, and he didn't have any. So he actually quit the new job, went back to the old job, and we were able to close escrow with him. But he didn't ever speak to me again, threatened to sue me and all sorts of things. And of course he never did. But it's just funny how people react when they make a bad decision. They want to lash out at somebody. But that's my I Knew a Guy story.
Man.
And I knew him because we don't talk anymore. You know, it's rare not to get referrals from past clients. And in a case like that, I really helped the guy out. But he didn't see it that way, unfortunately. Well, thanks for watching, or should I say, listening. And don't forget to tell us what you thought. Just like on the radio, it may become a regular feature. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you out there in the IE.